I'm probably going to share something that might be a little counter to what a lot of people are talking about. And that is long form ads are not only viable, but they're actually becoming essential for D2C brands. And what I want to talk about is kind of this reality that longer form ads are a huge asset to have in your ads library. And I want to break down how you can make them, thinking about them, and why they're actually really important to have, and basically like the value that they can bring beyond just performance, like just direct conversion. There's a lot of value that comes from building out longer form ads, and that's what we're going to get into today. So a little bit ago, like maybe 2 months ago, we had a 2.5 minute long ad outperform everything else. And we had a lot of different ads that we put in, but this 2.5 minute ad outperformed and it quickly became a top performer for the brand. And the brand spends quite a bit of money a month. And it really made me change our perspective on longer form ads. The interesting thing was that we also produced a 3.5, like a 3.5 minute ad as well for that brand. So we had a 2.5 and a 3.5. And I think like most marketers are gonna dismiss them, be like, oh, it's too long. It needs to be 30 seconds. And today, everybody's attention span is so short. But let me tell you like what actually happened. The long form asset itself performed well on its own. Cool. Guess what? The second part to that is the fact that we were then able to have a treasure trove. I'm talking tons and tons of shorter assets that we can use from the same footage. And then the overall campaign efficiency skyrocketed because we had one major asset that worked well. Then we could break that off into smaller condensed ad versions, but also we could then take the B-roll and add that to other ads so that we can create more visual diversity. And all of a sudden, from building out one piece of content, we were able to create other pieces of content and then stretch that content onto other ads and help other ads find efficiency, help find other winning ads beyond that using the footage from this original long form piece. Now, it helped that that long form piece itself worked and was efficient in and of itself, but that is amazing to see the impact that that one ad unit was able to have across the ad account, not just because it itself was a performer, but because of all the other things we were able to utilize from making this one ad. And why does long form content work in short attention spans like economy, like in this time where a lot of people are like optimizing for like the first 3 seconds? Oh my gosh, like all this, like we nobody watches everything, everybody's it's going crazy. Why the heck would you create something so large? And there's really kind of two reasons. And I think these two reasons are crucial for why you want to be implementing having longer form ads in your content library. The first is that it just forces your creative team to think differently. When you are no longer constrained to 30 seconds and you have to just rethink your entire strategy, you got to think about what you are going to say that would take that long. What are those ideas? So changing the canvas will then change how you approach this piece, approach how you go and create and think and strategize about the piece. The second part is that your content has versatility that short form just doesn't have. And you think about traditional TV campaigns, a lot of times they would shoot a 60-second spot knowing they're also going to create a 45, 30, 15, and a 5-second spot. I think that we have kind of let that way of thinking kind of go away. Like, oh, TV ads, no, we don't do that. We don't do the high production stuff. And so we've kind of thrown that away. But there's actually a lot of value to that thought process of how do you build a larger piece of content knowing you're going to consolidate it across these other time slots. What's the content in the 60? What's the content in the 30, 15, and the 5, and the 45? We should take that process and implement that within kind of digital marketing. Okay, we have a 2.5 minute spot. What does a minute and a half spot, a minute spot, what's a 30 second, what's a 15 second from that? You can't get all of those different ads if you don't have that first larger piece. So the larger piece, if you push yourself to do something longer and larger, it'll force your team to think differently. And beyond that, you will also get a lot of different assets that come off of that longer piece, which goes into the content multiplication effect that a longer form ad really has. Because when you start to prioritize longer content, you shoot once, but that creates dozens of assets. You're able to test different segments to see what resonates. So the longer the ad is, you have many different sections within that ad that you can then, I'm going to take this last section, I'm going to put it up the front, I'm going to take the front section, I'm going to put it in the back. You have so much more to operate and maneuver with, which creates a dozen more different optimizations, iterations, and assets itself. You start to discover hooks and angles that you probably wouldn't have captured if you were just doing your short form only approach, because you're trying to squeeze so much in to that 30 seconds. You're not thinking about other ideas or ways in which to communicate your product, your value to prospective customers. And the best part probably is the fact that you get to build a library, a content library that can be deployed across all channels, right? So not even just the ad itself, but all of that B-roll can now be used for organic stuff, for YouTube, for Meta, all TikTok, all these different channels that you want because you did this one bigger shoot. And I think a lot of times bigger shoots, a little bit more in terms of budget. I understand that. I understand that might be scary to people. But when you think about how much value you get out of the price it takes to make a longer ad, it's actually amazing. And again, you get so much more than just the longer ad itself. There's so many other things you get from it that makes the price almost a no-brainer compared to the value they get beyond just the actual asset and its performance. So I think we need to kind of rethink the production for long form success. I think that when people are creating longer content, it is hard because their process and system is built for kind of more short form. So it requires you to have to change how you go about your process, go about how you strategize for a piece of content. And I think that the typical kind of single creator talking head style is what dominates a ton of social ads, and most of the social ads. That is often very hard to maintain beyond 30 seconds, 45 seconds. So to succeed with longer content, you really need to think about and consider a few things. One is multiple presenters or testimonials. You'll want to think about more sophisticated production value, stronger narrative structure, and visual variety and pacing changes. So this gets a little hard because yes, you're making a long ad, but it still needs to be dynamic all the way through, which is very, very difficult. It's already difficult to make a impactful, engaging 30-second ad. Now multiply that by 5. That's hard, right? That's very, very hard. And that requires a level of detail and thought that's going to be different, and execution that's going to be different than how you're executing your 30-second spots. I think that this is truly like the biggest opportunity right now. And I think most brands are missing out on it because we are seeing so many people optimize for this 15-second TikTok video that there's just this open space that if you can make something long form and engaging, viewers will watch it. See, viewers don't want to watch bad content. They want to watch good content. If that's 6 seconds, they want to watch it. If it's 30 minutes, they want to watch it. So you have to make good content, period, no matter what the length is, right? So just making a long ad does not make it successful. You have to make a good long ad. But because that is hard to do, if you can crack that code, the amount of time on that first impression and trust that you can build with a customer is way more dynamic than a 15-second ad. So if you can actually get this, then that can really, really help with your customer acquisition. Now, because it's hard, many brands shy away from it. They don't have the resources or the time to really go deep and try to figure out how to do it. But if you do, this can be a very, very helpful tool in the toolkit to expand your content diversity, your creative diversity within your account. Here are a few things that I think can help you get started on creating longer form ads. The first is to identify your most successful existing ads and then try to figure out what story could you tell if you had 2.5 minutes. So take your top winning ad. There's probably different segments of that. Let's say it's a 30-second segment or a 30-second ad. And let's say you break down the structure of it and it's 5 seconds, 5 seconds, 5 seconds, like, whatever, 6 sections of 5. What if you could expand each of those sections, right? Like the overall structure of the ad is already working in this account. You know that. Okay, what would happen if you could then have 2 minutes to talk about it versus 30 seconds? Just take the winner and just try to expand it. How would you expand it? That's a really great first way to start versus being like, we're going to come up with this brand new idea. I don't know if we're going to come up with this brand new idea. I'm not really sure. But just take something that's already winning, 30 seconds, whatever, and just expand it. That's a good first place to start. You can also think about planning shoots with multiplication in mind from the start. So thinking about how do I think about a bigger piece and then multiplying that? What are some other additional assets or ads that I want to come off of this? If you are going to do that, the third thing you need to think about is creating a shot list, like a very long shot list. So you create one long piece, make sure you have a ton of different B-roll, angles, all that stuff, so that when you go to create this long form piece, you have a lot of content you can work off of to make it engaging, but then also you have a lot of that content for, again, that content multiplication where you can then use it in so many other places. The fourth thing you want to think about is developing a stronger narrative structure that can sustain longer viewing. So it's not enough just to like throw some sections together and that's it. You really need to make sure that you're continually building a case. So every time you're adding in another 10, 15 seconds, there needs to be a true reason why you're adding it, right? So again, don't just go long form just to go long form, but really have a true reason to do that. And the last thing to think about is strategize and edit modularly. That's so hard to say, modularly, because you want to think about the longer version first, but then how do you extract these shorter sections out of it that still makes sense, that can still tell the story. So if you think about things from like sections, just the same way that you would take a smaller ad and expand those sections to go longer. The same is true if you want to go longer to shorter. You would want to know this section I'm talking about this product value, this section I'm talking about this pain, this section I'm talking about this solution, whatever it is. And then how do you condense that? How do you take it out? How do you, can that be its own ad? So you would think about this from it's like a modular setup. And again, I cannot say this enough. Don't leave this episode and be like, hey, Matt, I listened to this podcast. Matthew said we got to do longer ads. Let's do longer ads. And you just do longer ads and then it doesn't work. And you're like, You told me to do longer ads. You said it was going to work. You have longer ads that work. Yeah, we have longer ads that work because we have taken the time to make sure that the ad itself is still a good ad. It's not a good ad because it's long. It's a good ad because it's a good ad. It's speaking to the right customer. We're saying the right things. We've done all the research to do that. We've been able to create a through line of narrative and voiceovers and scripting and talking to camera and b-roll to make a great ad. It just so happened to be 2.5 minutes long to get to everything that we wanted to say and show, but it's not a great ad because it's a long ad. So what you want to be thinking about is, how do you incorporate a long ad into your creative diversity, into your thought process? But ultimately, it should push you to figure out, how else would we talk about our product, right? That's actually a second order effect that's going to be so helpful, is because it's going to push you to think differently about your ads than how you have been currently. If you're just optimizing for the same 15, 30-second spots over and over and over again, expand it, see what happens, see how that changes how you communicate, how you show your product. It's also going to push your team to make something that is thought provoking, engaging, and that's really hard to do and sustain that engagement over a long period of time. Again, long ad just to be a long ad, not going to work. But if you make a long ad that has the same great principles, that pushes you to change how you think about communicating your product, this can be a massive unlock to creating creative diversity in your ad account that could really build performance. That's all I've got for today. We've got newsletters, we've got YouTube, we've got the podcast, we've got it all. Subscribe, like, comment, all those fun things. Make sure to follow me on X, on LinkedIn. I'm always posting the content, TikTok, Instagram, everywhere and anywhere. We're here, we're there, and we're here to help you make the best ads possible. So thanks so much for watching, for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Peace.